Okay, I'm super tired, but this is going to be an interesting little test. I have run every single rally car in the game in a rallycross setting just to find out which car I do the best with. I mean, so this is kind of like an experiment in that the cars I think I do the best in, that I'm the most familiar with and all that stuff, it doesn't matter. Sometimes there are other cars out there that you're better at just because your brain understands how to operate those cars better. You know, like certain drive styles are more conducive to certain vehicles. I just wanted to see if my bias towards Subaru in this game is justified in some ways. You know, I've been driving Subaru cars in real life, obviously for years, but I've also been driving Subaru cars as my favorites in every racing game since I was a teenager. You know, if there's not a Subaru car in the game, I don't really like the game. So we're gonna take a look at some footage here of me driving every single car in the game besides the rallycross cars, because this is about the rally cars, you know, the cars that I drive the most in this game. And the reason why I chose to drive them on a rallycross course is because they're so much shorter and I can get an accurate flow, you know, and really choose my path through the course and I memorize it, you know. I believe the course is Barcelona. I'm not good at rear wheel drive cars, I never have been. And the only times I started the test over are if I crashed. But every car in this experiment, I only gave it one lap. So I tried to figure it out from a standing start to the finish line. So if I couldn't figure it out by then, you know, that's the car's fault, right? Out of these three cars, my favorite is the bottom right. What is it, the Fulvia, I think it's called? Second would be the Mini Cooper. And third would be that straight up Harry and the Hendersons car. I don't even know what that is. And I never will because I'm never gonna look into it. I don't drive the car ever. It's a piece. This is a great example of a classic cars I almost never touch. The only times I touch these classic cars were when I first started the game, like when you have to use one of these, or when someone plays it online. But look at that. Family Mobile to the rescue. I naturally chose the best of those cars. So let's take a look at the next cars here. Okay, these are also front wheel drive. My choice between these two cars is the top left. I think it's a Golf. I really don't know. But that's the car I would choose in this category of cars. You can see I'm already a little bit ahead with the yellow car in the bottom right here. And I slowed down a lot more with the car that I favor. I was less confident with it. This is a perfect example of being better at a car that I'm less familiar with. So it's not always about familiarization of a vehicle. Sometimes it's just about you personally work better with a different car. You just never know until you try them, right? So let's take a look at the next category. I had real difficulty getting that red car up top there to finish. The yellow car handled surprisingly well for its size. I felt like it was going to be kind of just all over the place because it's just too heavy, but it actually was one of the most stable and easy to control. And the duck car up top there, I've driven that once before just to see what it was like, because it, you know, is a monstrosity for a rally car, but you know, it did pretty well. I have no preference on any of these cars because I really don't drive those at all. So I struggle a lot with these, especially with that top right one and the bottom right one, the Cosworth. Bottom left is a Datsun. It's basically like a Nissan Z. That is my choice out of these 6 vehicles. So let's see who wins here. Okay, is that the Renault, then the Lancia, then the BMW, then my favorite car. These are kit cars. My choice out of these 3 would be the Volkswagen in the bottom right there, the silver car. I've never touched that top right car, that yellow car. I think it's a Seat Ibiza? Correct me if I'm wrong about any of these names I'm throwing out here. I'm letting you know right off the top, I have almost zero experience with most of these cars, really. I almost never drive any of these, but this should be kind of interesting here. I even went super wide on some of those corners, and I did better with the car I almost never touch. These cars are also rear wheel drive. Out of these 4, I would choose the bottom left almost every time, just because it looks like a Ferrari. It looks like a mean-ass Ferrari. It's a BMW, it's not a Ferrari. But, and it sounds amazing. Second choice would probably be the top left. You can see the extra speed that these cars are carrying. Really hard to control that top left one, if I remember correctly. I ended up struggling with all of them. But some of these were first run, but a couple of these cars I had to take a couple runs. But the car I struggled the most with to get it to stay straight ended up being the fastest after I kind of figured out how to control it. with like 3 different attempts, I think, on that one. These are the Group B all-wheel drive. My top choice, surprisingly, is actually the one I'm best at. The bottom left, the Lancia Delta. That car is amazing, sounds amazing. I was really surprised by the Peugeot in the top right there. The turbo lag was insane, but the car felt amazing. But there we go, the Lancia first. These, I choose the Ford Fiesta every single time. It looks the best. I feel like it has the most neutral handling. Like, I can feel what the car is doing. But is it the best car? I will tell you that almost all of these look exactly the same from the rear. You know, this category of cars is a great one if you want to kind of level the playing field, because they're all pretty close in performance. You can see how close they all are, with the Ford Fiesta a bit behind. So that's kind of annoying that my favorite car is not the one I'm best at. Let's take a look at the next category of cars here. These are some of my favorites. The Group A's. Top right obviously being my favorite, followed closely by the bottom left, the Legacy there. So let's see who wins out of all these cars. I think it's the Legacy, if I remember correctly. Oh, no. Legacy was second, so that's surprising. Okay, wrong again. Subaru WRX versus the Lancer Evo 10. Unfortunately, they don't make the Lancer Evo anymore, unless you want a crossover SUV. Out of these two, I always choose the Subaru Impreza. Actually, it's not the Subaru Impreza at this point, it's the WRX. Between these two cars, the WRX feels noticeably slower. So it's kind of interesting why I choose it, because I know it's the slower of the two cars, but I'm just so biased towards it. You can see that they're not like far off, but the Lancer is the winner almost every time I test it. In every stage, every course, I almost always do better than the Lancer. These are the 2000cc category, so you can see that, you know, these are from different years. The 22B up top right, was it the 2002 or 2003? Top left, third gen, in the bottom right, the hatchback. That's my favorite hatchback, by the way. But yeah, you can see these are from different generations. They're not all perfectly from the same era, but they are all around the same engine size. Let's see who wins. Really hard to tell, but one of my favorite cars, the 22B, I did not do well with, and I actually struggled to actually get a lap out of that one. I crashed. I had to redo that one 3 times with the 22B. Very surprising. Now, out of all these, the R5 Fiesta, the top left, would be my choice every single time, followed by the older Fiesta R5. But yeah, the other cars I never touch. So let's see who wins here. That was an example of a car I actually am good with, and I chose naturally the right car. These I almost never touch, but when I do, I almost always choose the Chevrolet Camaro. It was almost one of the hardest to control in this particular course, followed by the Ford Mustang. I really struggled with that car. I couldn't get it to turn in properly, felt really heavy and just awkward. You see me kind of sliding around there. The car I felt the most confident in actually was the Vanquish. What is it called? The Aston Martin, the bottom right there. Yeah, I was really surprised by that. I've never actually used that car, and it was the best out of all these, at least for me. So now we're going to take all the cars from every single category, all the cars that won, and see who does the best here. I thought it was interesting to see that it didn't matter what the power levels were or the drivetrain. You know, some of the cars were just better suited for shorter courses, for these kind of corners, and they just handled better to where I could do better with them regardless of the power levels. I really wish we were able to compare WRC cars You know, obviously this is not a perfect comparison because these are not the real cars. You know, these are interpretations of the cars. I thought it was just interesting to see that me personally, I do better in cars that I've never driven before, and I do better in some cars that I hate. So I guess the moral of the story is try it before you buy it. Anyway, have a good day. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video.